Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Josh Keatley, and today I want to tell you why I don't believe in God of the Bible. I'm just going to jump right into it. The number one reason I don't believe in God of the Bible is because the earth is a really big place, estimated over 7 billion people, and you would think one earth, one God, that the choice would be obvious to everybody living on this earth who the right God is, but it's not. There's hundreds, thousands of different religions with hundreds, thousands of different gods, and wherever you're born, grown up in your area, that is what religion you're gonna fall into for the most part. If you're from the United States or somewhere in Europe, you're gonna fall under that Christianity religion, and a lot of people just grow up into it. They don't really understand why or how. They haven't researched into other religions. And it's the exact same way, let's say, if you grew up in China, you have a completely different religion, a different God, because that is where you're grown up. That's what you know. So people have different gods, different religions based on where they live. And one thing to me that makes no sense is I know to get to heaven that you have to do through Jesus Christ. You have to accept Jesus into your life, blah, blah, blah. What about the people that were raised, grew up in a different religion, and they don't know who Jesus is? They don't know what the Bible is. Maybe they heard of it, but they don't care. That's not their religion. That's the same as us not knowing about the Chinese God. And how would billions of people every year, get sent to hell because they grew up in the wrong country? To me, it doesn't make any logical sense. What if we're completely wrong? What if the Chinese God is the right God, and when it's time to go to heaven, he's gonna be speaking his Chinese language, and he's gonna say, you didn't worship me, and send you straight to hell for not believing in the right God. There's not a 100% answer that their God is right over our God, why our God is right over their God. And that's just my number one reasoning. And my sister said to me, and she's a huge Christian person. I don't want to say too much about that. I love my sister. I love all my family. A lot of my family is really, really Christian. But my point is that she knows a lot about Christian stuff, a lot about God. And when I gave her this answer, she said to me that, that's why we have missionaries that go to other countries and they try to spread the word of God. Well, that's all great and dandy, but what if a missionary from China came over to us and tried to teach you about their God? You're not going to listen. You're not going to pay any attention because in your mind, in your head, you know who the right God is. So it's the same way. If we go over there to China, which, China is freaking huge, we're not sending missionaries to every part of China, every single part of Africa. Missionaries aren't even scratching the surface of reaching everybody. And even when you do come over there, they're not going to listen because they got their own God. So it's not like you can say, when it's time to decide whether they go to hell, like, oh, we tried to teach them, they didn't listen, they chose the wrong way. I think the whole thing it's just completely silly. It is. The second biggest reason that I don't believe in God of the Bible is because, in religion and churches, they teach you God is all about love. Love is God. They sing great Christian songs about it. But there's a huge problem with that. It's either you get an ultimatum, either you worship God or he's gonna send you to hell where you burn forever. Is that really much of a decision? Do you really have much of a choice? If you do believe in that, worship me or you're gonna burn in hell forever. How is that love? And speaking of God and love, some of the things in the Bible are just out there crazy, people believe what they want to believe. They take what they like about the Bible and they put it on the front pages. The bad stuff, they try to twist it like it's a good thing. God kills people all the time, millions at a time. Let's think about the flood. That's genocide right there. You think Hitler was bad. That's pretty bad. If you can credit God for the flood, of doing exactly what the Bible says. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, he basically nuked two gigantic cities, women, children, everybody, the firstborn of Egypt. There's that story, where Moses is trying to get, all these people out of Egypt. And to finally make this happen, God kills the firstborn of every Egyptian in Egypt, every household. That's pretty harsh, I mean, what did every single person do something wrong that you have to kill their baby, just to harden the Pharaoh's heart so he'll let them go? I mean, that's a huge amount of babies, all in one night. I mean, if God was a real person, we would put him on trial for the biggest war crimes in the world. He would make Hitler, the biggest serial killers look like complete saints. Like the number of wrongdoings that God did in the Bible is just ridiculous. How about where they mocked Elijah's bald head, and God sent 2 bears to maul 42 little kids to death. 42 kids for making fun of someone's bald head. I mean, that does that sound like love to you? I'm just saying. The third reason that I don't believe in God or the Bible, because the stories in there are just so unbelievable, and a lot of them don't make sense. The Bible has a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors, a lot of stories that contradict each other. I mean, if you just take a look at the very beginning part of the Bible, the creation story. Now, on the very first day, God created night and day, light and darkness. And on the third day, God created plants. On the fourth day, God created the sun, moon, and all the stars. Now, science says that that's not possible. How in the world did God create light and dark with no sun? Sun was the source of our life. That wasn't created till day 4. And also on day 3, how is there plants with no sunlight? Where was this day 1 light coming from? Did he have a gigantic flashlight shining down somewhere? Where did this light come from? How did we get plants without the sun? How do we get light without the sun? He didn't create till day 4. I mean, just little things like that. It's just obvious, common sense stuff that makes no sense in the Bible. And there's millions and millions of contradicting stories like this. Men were created in our image. O-U-R. Who is R? The Bible preaches 100 times throughout the Bible, thousands of times, that there is only one God. You must not worship any other God. He makes that very clear, but somehow it says in our own image. O-U-R. It makes no sense. I mean, I'm not even going to go into detail all the stories that make absolutely no sense. Like all the kids' stories, that they made children's books about and stuff. I mean, Noah's Ark. There's no way you fit all those animals into that boat. And people try to come up with thousands of reasons how that's possible. It's not. There's no way to fit every animal on the earth, 2 of every kind, all the food, everything, on the dimensions that were exact in the Bible. There's no way that was possible. Parting the Red Sea, not possible. Jonah and the whale, living inside of a whale, it's not possible. I mean, all these stories are just made up fairy tales. And that's going to take me into my next part is, what am I on? Not a good counter. Am I on number 4? So reason number 4, why I don't believe in God of the Bible, is so many people think that the book, the Bible, came directly from God. God wrote everything. But, I mean, they know that God didn't write anything, it's not possible. But he at least whispered into the ears, to the writers, this is God's word. And, it's not true at all. The Bible was made by men of early times, and they wrote what they wanted to write in the Bible. Now, if God was whispering something into these guys' ear, told them what to write, and God knows everything, I mean, the Bible would just be filled of just crazy knowledge. Science would be baffled, like, oh, the Bible is right. Oh, the Bible is right. But it's the complete opposite. Science is constantly debunking the Bible. It says in the Bible many times, until the ends of the earth. Because when the Bible was wrote, men thought that the earth was flat. There was a spot that you'd fall off the earth to the end of the earth. We now know that the earth is round. If God was whispering in someone's ear, why didn't he put that knowledge in there? Hey, buddy, the earth is round. Let them know. There's hundreds of stuff like this that, we got to a certain point, in scientific discovery that we know that the Bible was wrong. And people that, used to teach science, used to say things that debunked what it said in the Bible, debunked God, were actually put to death. It's just crazy. So reason number 5 that I don't believe in God or the Bible, and it kind of goes along the same lines here, that the Bible was made by men. Men put what they wanted to put in the Bible. People take the Bible literally, like everything was directly from God. But we know now there's a lot of things that are just morally wrong, that it says that it's okay in the Bible. And a lot of Christians, a lot of firm believers of the Bible, they take what they want to take out of the Bible and they make everything in a positive turn. But some of the negative things, you don't see them highlighting them, like it's okay to have slaves. God makes a quote directly about how to take care of your slaves. It's okay to beat your slaves. It's okay to have them for 6 years. After the 7th year, you have to let them go. I mean, there's plenty of verses in the Bible that talks about slavery is okay. And we know morally now that slavery is completely wrong. You're taking someone else's life and you're making it a living hell. There's nothing that's right about slavery, and people want to use this in the court system, about God says it's okay. God also says it's okay to treat women, that women are not equal to men. I mean, if we were to follow the Bible 100% about what God says about women, keeping silence, it's completely sexist, that women, they shouldn't have any rights. They don't have equal rights to men. And, that's something in America, pushing women's right was a huge thing. And this is all things that are stepping outside the Bible, things that are morally wrong in the Bible that we should never hold in court at all. And, we talked about slavery, we talk about women's rights. Now, something that is really being pushed is gay marriages. And that's something that, once again, the Bible condones, says, is completely wrong. If a man lies with another man, he should be put to death. Well, it also says that about many other things. It also talks about if you commit adultery, you sleep with somebody else before you're married, you should also be put to death. If that's the case, how many people would be put to death? People would be put to death left and right. Many thousands, millions of people have sex before marriage, It also talks about if you lie, you should be put to death. If you lie to your parents, you should be put to death. You should be stoned to death, I believe it says. And there's just many things in there that people want to take what they believe and what they don't believe. They want to leave out certain parts of the Bible. And I think it's just completely wrong to try to hold the Bible or the God's word in any type of law situation, in Congress, anywhere, and it still constantly comes up in the public eye, in the news. A certain person says this, it says this in the Bible. And those people don't read the full Bible. They don't read it completely of what it is, just how sexist it is towards women, how slavery is okay. There's just a lot of wrongdoing in the Bible, and people don't want to open their eyes to that wrongdoing. And the Bible, was made by men. These men that wrote the Bible put what was right in their time. In no way did God say something in these guys' ear, that has any valuable meaning on how we should live our life today. Now, I do want to talk about, people believe that God is omnipresent. I can't even say the word right, but you know what I mean. Meaning that he's everywhere all at one time. He sees and hears every action that we do, and also talk about prayer, how prayer does or doesn't work. Now, I don't believe that God does anything to change the things that we do in life. When we make a decision, it's split decision in our mind, go left, right, straight at any given moment. These are things that quickly, that God doesn't have any control over what people do in life. God doesn't change anything that happens in this earth. And a lot of people believe that, to do with prayer. Does prayer work or not work? I would definitely say no, because no matter what you pray for, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. So, there could be 20,000 people praying for their football team to win, and another 20,000, 30,000 people praying for this football team to win. Only one football team can win. Who's God gonna let down? It doesn't matter. God's not gonna be on either side. No matter who you pray for, whoever's the best team, whoever played better that day is gonna be the winner. Let's say someone praying for someone to get better, someone not to die, and this person does die. Do they say, oh, God let me down, God didn't answer my prayer? No, they just move on and they say, oh, well, God had better intentions with this person. He's in a better place now. God had plans for him. You prayed for him to live and he died. He failed you, and God constantly fails prayers, because it doesn't matter. God isn't there changing anything that has to do with anything. Now let's say if someone's really sick and they do get better, did God play any part of it? I think it has to do with, whatever condition they have, maybe the hospital that they was at, the doctor, if they had to have open heart surgery, maybe the, 20 years that surgeon has repairing his heart, that surgery, I would say that doctor probably saved that guy's life. In a case like that, they want to put it on God, like God saved his life. No, the doctor did. The doctor did. Let's try this. Look, when someone's sick, don't send them to a hospital. Just pray for them. Let's see what happens. It doesn't work that way. We have to physically go in and fix things. And one time, me and my mom, we were talking about this, and my mom said to me that she prayed for two things: that her van would hold off until she got a new one, and that she would find a job. And both those happens. God answered both for her prayers. And I told my mom, God didn't physically put his hands inside your van, and tinker with any of the parts inside your van to hold it off any longer. Parts have a certain time period, depending on how much they're used and whatnot, that they break down or don't break down. And she took good care of her van, and she was having some problems with it. My uncle already went in there and fixed a bunch of things. So God did not physically put his hand in her van anywhere and tinker around with any parts. That it doesn't happen. And the second thing, her getting a job, she physically went out there, went job hunting, and she got a job, like, I'm just gonna say in the nurses area, and she has more than, 10, 15 years of being a nurse. I think that really helped her get a job. Her physically getting off her ass, going out, finding a job, putting out applications, going to interviews. She helped herself get a job. Now, if you pray to God to find me a job, and you just sit on your ass and you do nothing, obviously that prayer is not going to work. But she personally went out, and found that job herself. Maybe her 15 years of experience being a nurse really helped her out, but God played no part of her finding that job. People want to pray about everything like it's going to change everything, and it's absolutely not. Prayer doesn't mean anything. I could pray get $100 tomorrow and it's not gonna happen. And people come up with plenty of reasons why or why not these prayers did or didn't work, because God isn't there. God isn't answering any of your prayers. It just doesn't happen. I'm sorry, guys. And just to wrap this up, guys, I've been a long time believer in God. Like I said, I grew up a Christian, and there's nothing in my life that happened where I say I hate God or something like that. I stopped believing him. I started believing more and more into science. I started watching a lot of science shows, and I started reading, different books, and I had two different friends, that didn't believe in God, and, we would get in these arguments about God, there being a God, there not being a God, and they would usually win these arguments because a lot of the stuff that they said, I couldn't rebuttal, like they had a really good point about everything. And I think what really kind of did it to me, I was watching Ancient Aliens, which is a show I absolutely love, and Eric Von Daniken, the guy who wrote Chariot of the Gods, which I own that book, read it several times, I love it. He was talking about in his Ancient Alien show how, he used to transfer he had to know all the writings of the Bible, in its very first form, and translate it, into English and back and forth, and that's what he was doing in school. It's what he studied, and in some of the original texts of the Bible, the Latin versions or whatever version, whatever it was in, I believe Latin. He said something about God, was hiding in a mountain. And he said, my God, how can my God be hiding? Like, my God wouldn't be hiding in a mountain somewhere. And you don't hear this story in the Bible at all because the words have changed so much over time. People take what they like about the Bible and they change it. They leave out stories that weren't important, quote unquote, weren't important. So, and just kind of thinking about that, like, yeah, why would God hide in a cave? And, when you just look at every story in the Bible, I mean, there's just so much nonsense in there. Just so much stuff that science has proved wrong. There's so much stuff in there that doesn't make any sense at all from a logical standpoint and from a moral standpoint. And I just don't believe in it. I don't want to believe in it. I think I'm too far deep now in reasoning of why the Bible don't exist to ever go back to believing in it again. If you can say something to change my opinion, change my thought on that, I would love to hear it. But I think I'm pretty stand firm believer that the Bible isn't real, that God isn't real. He's just an imaginary person in the sky. And that's all I really got for you guys today. I do hope you enjoyed my video. I really hope I don't really want to offend anybody. If you do believe in God, please keep doing so. But I want to thank you guys for watching my video, and you have a great day today.